States is their nation. It belongs to whites and nobody else. White separatists claim he's the Paul Revere of today, warning white America that they will lose their identity. Others say he's spreading an agenda of hate. Let's take a look at the last time he was on. I asked him about why he feels threatened by immigration. He said this.
The Mexican officials themselves are proud of the fact that, as they say, street by street, town by town, Mexico is taking back the southwestern part of the United States.
Jared, you think immigrants are taking over this country? Explain yourself.
Well, listen to Charles Trujillo. He's a visiting professor of Chicano studies at the University of New Mexico. He says that the creation of a Hispanic nation in the southwestern part of the United States within the next 80 years is an inevitability, in his words. He says, I'm quoting him, "We will one day be a majority and reclaim our birthright." That means you and I get kicked out.
Well, no, not. First of all, the only thing separating us is an imaginary line.
Imaginary? That's what borders are for.
Yes,
borders
yes, that's
are real.
true. But he's also, I think, dealing with the reality of the fact that the majority of the people on this face of the globe are people of color.
Well, all the more reason for whites to have an area where they are a majority, for heaven's sake. Look, Koreans are a minority on the face of the globe. Does that mean they have to be a minority in Korea?
And you believe that the whole issue with terrorism, we're now on high alert, those are related, don't you? You think immigration and terrorist alert?
Oh, well, the fact that, you see, until 1965, we had an immigration policy that was designed to keep the country majority white. It was quite specific in that respect. Since that time, we've let in millions of people from all around the world, which means that if terrorists happen to be Muslim, if they happen to be Arab, Middle Eastern, there are huge communities in which they can disappear.
Yes.
We would never have had that problem before 1965. Any person, any young Muslim with a beard, was shifty-eyed, didn't speak English, stick out like a sore thumb.
Shifty-eyed?
Well, look at those pictures of Muhammad Atta. He looked like a cool cucumber to you?
Well, I've seen some Irish people in a bar that looked kind of shifty-eyed. I don't think that's exclusive to one particular ethnic identity.
I think
who would you let in, Mr. Taylor? Who can come in?
At this point, there are 280 million Americans. When's the last time you were driving down the road and you said to yourself, gosh, there are just not enough cars on the highway? When's the last time you were standing in line? We got too many people already. And we don't need any more people.
People of color cause that problem?
No, just all sorts of people swarming in from all over the place. But you see, we import nearly 1 million people every year, 90% of whom are non-white.
You know this was not a white nation.
What do you mean, not a white nation?
It certainly didn't originate as a white part of the world. And now you know exactly what I mean. I don't know why you would want to tap dance around that.
What? The very first naturalization law in the United States, written in 1790, the country was not even 20 years old. It reserved naturalization to free white people. It was quite specific and explicit about that. In fact, practically every prominent American, up until about the 1950s, had racial views almost indistinguishable from mine, practically without exception.
You are the genteel racist, as some have suggested. Here you are in your shirt and tie. Yale.
You too, shirt and tie.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to work my way up here. It's not easy. I have, But let me just tell you, you're a Yale graduate, 1973, is that right?
You've done your work.
And I assume you're not invited back to Yale to speak, are you? Or...
I've tried to get invited. They won't have me. I've been to many different other universities. Right. You'd think my alma mater would have me, but not yet.
Where's this fear come from, Jared? What are you afraid of? We are all God's children. You cannot balkanize the world and say, you're this color and you can't come in.
Mr. Donahue.
You're this color and you can't come in. Incidentally, your argument of keeping out the Arabs, as you refer broadly to people of Middle Eastern origin, is that we wouldn't be able to find them because we have too many Arabs now. In other words, they'd blend in.
Exactly.
You know, that's almost funny if it weren't so ridiculous.
It's so obviously
In other words, if we had an all-white nation, boy, we could grab those people of color right away, couldn't we? You know, my grandmother hit them over the head with her umbrella.
Isn't that, look, how easy would it be for Muhammad Atta and his 19 pals to blend into Japan?
If we wouldn't have let all those other people in.
Let me finish. In Japan, how easily could they have blended in? very hard. How well would they have blended in Korea? How about Iceland?
So
they'd had a very tough time. Now, this business about balkanization, the world balkanizes itself. We don't have to make that happen. The folly is in inviting people utterly unlike the native population into a nation and then trying to get them to live in peace. That is complete craziness. It has never worked.
The native population in this country.
We are now the native population.
Well, but we were, you know, imagine if they adopted you'd never have arrived. If Native Americans had the power that you want to exercise in keeping people out, this would be a monoracial nation. It would be a red nation.
And if diversity was such a wonderful thing, why isn't it Christmas year-round for the Indians?
And first of all...
I mean, tell me, if diversity is a great thing, the Indians should be happy as clams.
Indians, first of all, the Indians had enough trouble with the so-called Christians coming over here and in the name of God being massacred. So let's have a little reflection here on the part of the Christian community who claim to come here with the noble purpose of domesticating the savages. We've used all kinds of excuses to get away from people who are different from us, and we have failed to celebrate the fabulous nature of, for example, New York City. You know, were you scared coming in from the airport? You see all those brown people?
If I'd taken a wrong turn, Mr. Donahue, if I'd taken a wrong turn and headed north, I would have gone through parts of New York City that looked like Afghanistan. They look like Afghanistan. They didn't look that way.
That is not about pigmentation.
Look, do white people live in those places?
That is about maldistribution of wealth. It's about not being able to afford a school system that might give your kid a chance. It's about going against redlining and banks. Residential areas are segregated by institutions, and we're all fighting them, and you should be too.
Why is it that black populations in every multiracial society end up exactly as they do in the United States?
First of all,
they end up looking like Afghanistan wherever you find them, be it in Canada, be it the UK.
Yeah, I'd like to see the kind of house and neighborhood you live in if you couldn't go to Yale, if you hadn't had the opportunity of going to what was probably a very well-funded public school system when you were small. I'm here to say that I think the majority of Americans feel that they are blessed by the diversity of this country. They enjoy the music of many cultures.
Blessed by the
incidentally, what kind of music? Your name is Taylor.
Correct.
That is what? Is that...
it's an English name.
English,
yes,
I see.
That shouldn't be difficult.